Roxo Media House.
From the Flying T Club studios at Roxo Media House, this is Frogs Today. With special guest, TCU Men's Basketball Associate Head Coach, Tony Benford. Plus an analytics breakdown of TCU versus Michigan from our numbers experts. We talk bowl preparation with some of the stars of this year's Frog football team. And we check in on some true multi-talented student athletes from track and field. And now here's your host, the voice of the TCU Horned Frogs, Brian Estridge.
Welcome into the Friday edition of Frogs Today. We come to you here from the Flying T Club studios. I'm Brian Estridge. We've got a jam-packed day for you here. We're going to talk some men's basketball. We got some football we got to get into. We're going to catch up with some of the guys on this team, talk about what's coming up here in the next couple of weeks for them. We got a track update. And we're going to start to break down some numbers now for TCU and Michigan. Right now, though, we start the show off the top with one of our favorites. It's Tony Benford. He's the associate head coach on the men's basketball team, of course, under Coach Jamie Dixon. He joins us right now. Coach, good to see your face. Thanks for hopping on with us. All right, 8-1 at this point. Had that hiccup earlier in the year against Northwestern State, and we talked about it at the time. Could that actually be a good thing for your team? I think your group's responded quite well since then.
Well, no doubt, Brian. Glad to be with you guys. I think, obviously that game we were out, Mike and Damon. Those guys are leaders, and without those guys, it's tough to play anybody, and any team lose their backcourt, it's going to be very difficult. I don't care who you play. But I think since then, our guys have responded. Guys are starting to get healthy. I thought the trip, obviously the trip to Destin, beating Cal and Iowa, that was really good, especially the Iowa game. I thought our guys really did a great job defensively, and we talked about that, and great job offensively, execution-wise, and rebounding-wise. So I think we're really starting to gel a little bit. And I thought the other night against SMU, we looked at it, played 35 minutes of solid basketball. The last 5 minutes, as you know, I'm sure Coach expressed that to you, we did not finish that game the right way, like a veteran team that should finish a game. And there's some things we know we got to clean up. And, when you're up 18 with 4 minutes to go and, you only win by 8, you got to do some, you got to make sure you address that. And we will. And our guys understand that. We just got to close games out.
That's a tough position, too. You're up 18, as you said, with 4 minutes to go. At what point, as a coach, do you say, all right, let's start taking some air out of this thing? And with the three ball the way it is, and that team had struggled shooting the three, really, for the last several games, all of a sudden they got kind of semi-hot on you. And you're like, where did this come from, right?
Well, yeah. Well, the one thing we did, Brian, looked at it like 4 or 5 times. I'm sure Coach has too. But the one thing, we had some breakdowns. We were turning the ball over. They had some, they pressed us a little bit, and we had some turnovers, careless turnovers that we shouldn't have had. And then we took a couple of quick shots that probably, you want to run a little bit more clock. You don't want to get too conservative, but you got to be smart about it. And we really just didn't do a good job with that, taking care of the basketball down the stretch. And for overall the game, we limited them to 2 threes the entire game. So we did that because that was one of our goals, because they were shooting the ball pretty well going into it. And we did a great job taking away the 3. But, we let them get away from us and had some defensive breakdowns, miscommunication, our ball screen coverage late, the last 3 or 4 minutes in that game. But we finished the game, and we got some things that we can build on and learn from.
Yeah, and I said they got hot late. They got away with a couple too. That you're like, where'd that come from? And you're right, turning you over like they did. That was a good display too, by the way, of because there were like 3 of them, I think, where you just didn't put enough zip on the ball, right? Passing it, you just kind of lobbed it up there and guys took it.
Exactly. We work on our press every day, and our guys know that. We tell our guys we run through the ball. That's one term we use, or meet the pass, So we didn't do a great job of running through passes or meeting the ball. So we got to continue to do that. And then a couple times we got trapped in the corners. We went too deep. We try to stay above the free throw line, to go get the ball. But they did a good job. I give them credit. they did a great job of putting pressure on us and forcing us to the areas that we didn't need to be in. So we got to do a great job when we see the trap coming, get rid of the ball, and then if we do break the press, we want to attack it if we have numbers. If not, just pull it out and execute our offense.
I love this 9 games that you've played so far because you've kind of gotten any game you can name. And that's where I think Jamie does a terrific job of scheduling because you see a lot of different looks and it prepares you for Big 12 play. I'm thinking back to these last 2 games where you've seen that 2-3 zone. First time against Jackson State, Coach talked about how he didn't react to it as well as you want. He had done a little something different. I thought they handled that 2-3 zone that SMU threw at you a little better.
Yeah, we did. And going into the game, SMU's only played, obviously Jackson State played the game, played the zone played 2-3 part quite a bit, trying to match up a little bit out of it. And SMU, that was my scout, and they've only had 5 possessions all year, Brian, of playing the 2-3 zone. But they figured they looking at our 3-point numbers and figured they probably need to play a little bit more zone because we were getting in the lane at will. But I thought we did a great job. Coach made an adjustment. We started running our motion and attacking that and got Eddie some touches at the high post, and our guys were doing a great job of cutting through the zone and kept moving. We weren't stagnant. We didn't stop. And, a lot of times we sit there and we're watching, passing back and forth. We had great movement, ball movement. We got the ball inside and played a little bit through Eddie, and he made some great passes out of that zone. So we're going to see that moving forward. Providence played a little bit too. And I thought, like you say, playing against different styles, you're right. Providence is an old, physical, Big East type game, similar to our league, beat you up type team, like, defensively. But, then obviously you heard, with Iowa, they want to play up tempo. And now you got, we got obviously Mississippi Valley State coming up. We got Utah, who's playing really well. One of the best teams in the Pac-12 right now. And so that's going to be a huge challenge. But we're not going to overlook the first, Mississippi Valley. But this week we're going to spend time, this is great for us. Guys take care of their academics, and we can get them in the gym and get extra shots up. And we're going to have practices start tomorrow. They've been off 2 days, but we'll be able to really lock in on ourselves and just kind of shore up some things offensively and defensively that we need to work on.
All right, I want to hit you one other thing real quick before I let you go. Tony Benford's with us right now. Damian Ball back now for these last couple of 3 games. This offense flows better with Damian on the floor. I'm not breaking any news there, am I?
No. It makes a difference. It takes pressure off Mike. Because Mike was counting down more than Damon, the hours and the days and the minutes when Damon was going to come back, because it relieves when you get another quality ball handler out there. And in my opinion, those 2 guys can be the best backcourt in the country, when they're flowing and doing a great job playing off one another and getting everybody their teammates involved. And Damon just sets the tone. He takes pressure off Mike. He takes pressure off all the guys. He's got great speed and quickness. He's a really good defender, on ball and off the ball defender. So that frees up Mike to, on the defense a little bit. We can guard another guy, but he's doing a great job. I think he feels bad the other night because he kind of got careless. I think he had 3 or 4 turnovers the other night, and he knows he's got to cut those down, and he will. He'll be in the gym today. He'll be watching film and on his own and with one of our GAs, and so he knows he's got to continue to improve and just get in the groove. That's where it's at. When you've been out 6 games, but he's been practicing still. When you get in the game, it's the speed of the game sometimes is a little bit different. But he's doing a great job. We're excited to have him back.
By the way, grab your pen there on your desk and mark down under the yes column. Mark down Estridge for yes on the gray and the black uniform. I like both of them.
I tell you, I get Justin Shaw, who's our equipment guy. He's one of the best in the country. He does a great job with that. I know Coach at Thomas, those guys worked on that with him, but they're unbelievable. I get a lot of recruits that have commented on them so far. So we're going to keep changing the game on that end.
That's Associate Head Coach Tony Benford, part of this TCU men's basketball program here. Horned Frogs and Mississippi Valley State coming up on Sunday afternoon. When we come back on Frogs Today, start to break down that TCU-Michigan football game coming up on the 31st. We bring in our numbers expert from Advanced Scouting, of course, Parker Fleming, part of our team here at Frogs Today. He's got that Purple Theory podcast. He's going to team up with Jamie Plunkett. They're going to start talking nerdy numbers. You're going to want to be here for that. We break down this game between TCU and Michigan next after this time.
Dave's Hot Chicken is a cult favorite and now has 2 locations in Fort Worth, Bryant Irvin Road on I-20 and Berry Street at TCU. Both owned and operated by Horned Frogs. Mention the Frogs Today show and get 10% off anytime and order online at daveshotchicken.com.
The Flying T Club provides the everyday TCU fan and alum the ability to specifically support TCU student athletes. Flying T Club offers 3 levels of memberships. The Flying T Club is a nonprofit organization supporting the brand development of TCU student athletes through a series of unique event-based networking opportunities, which are exclusive to our members. These events provide a great social engagement tool for our members and student athletes alike. Follow them on Instagram at Flying T Club or online at flyingtclub.com. Rolling on to the Friday edition of Frogs Today. All right, it's time to kind of zoom in now. Let's take a deep dive into TCU and Michigan coming up on the 31st. Game planning already happening for this football program. Well, we got to do game planning of our own, don't we? Let's dive a little deeper into this matchup and just how similar these two teams are. Number 2, Michigan. Number 3, TCU. Parker Fleming and Jamie Plunkett break it down with some advanced scouting right now.
Thanks, Brian. Jamie Plunkett here alongside Parker Fleming, Stats War on Twitter. Parker, thanks for coming back on the show today. Obviously a member of Frogs Today, Purple Theory podcast with Grant McGalliard. First and foremost, as you've taken a look at Michigan and TCU, what about the data has stood out to you?
Yeah, so you can't really make any comparisons here without acknowledging that Blake Corum, Michigan's leading rusher, is injured and out. So the first thing that stood out was that run game for Michigan. They're they're 8th in EPA per rush, expected points added, an efficiency metric, compared to TCU's 48th best defense there. So that's definitely the defining matchup. But without Corum, that run game is going to change a little bit. So that one really stood out to me. And also we get a really nice kind of best on best situation when TCU is on offense. TCU's offense is not very efficient in the pass game. They're only averaging a 37.2% success rate, but they're 22nd in explosiveness, EPA per play. And Michigan, on the other hand, is 7th in explosiveness allowed, but they're 30th in defensive passing success rate. So what that tells me is TCU on offense is going to have a lot of opportunities to be a little bit more successful and consistent in the pass game, which they're going to have to do because their explosiveness is going to be limited by a very good Michigan defense here.
You know, that's really interesting that you bring that up because TCU obviously has the most passing touchdowns in the country of 20 yards or more. So if that is less available for them, then they're going to have to be able to find more creative ways to win. I think the best thing for TCU compared to maybe some other teams entering bowl season right now is health, frankly, and availability. You talk about some of the stars that are opting out. You talk about Blake Corum being out for Michigan. TCU doesn't really have much in that way of injury loss or NFL draft loss at this point, which I think is pretty valuable, don't you?
Yeah, especially when you think about TCU playing it ended up being 11 games down the stretch in a row of a week, 10 different opponents over 11 games there in a very, very difficult stretch. That is a hard to manage and is definitely going to take a mental toll in terms of that preparation, that turnaround, and a physical toll in terms of having to be ready. And we saw TCU was varying levels of health. But with a couple weeks here to prepare for one opponent and a couple weeks to get healthy, there is a lot of opportunities to say, hey, maybe TCU can do less surviving like they did in the last couple of games and more thriving like they did when they were a little bit had a game plan in mind and were able to kind of capitalize on it.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about thriving. I think about Max when he was in New York this weekend, getting a slice of pizza at 1 o'clock in the morning and just hanging out with his girlfriend and his family, and he joked the next day that the pizza that he had late night was actually just a head start on his carbs count for the next day. So, had a chance to talk with Ryan Jackson of TCU strength and conditioning team, and he did talk a little bit about what they are doing as far as rest and recovery this week and next week as they start to get into practice and preparation for Michigan. And I think that you're absolutely right. The grueling effect of that 11 games in a row really put a damper, especially on the offensive side of the ball, I think, those last 4 or 5 weeks of the season. So it will be really interesting to see how creative TCU can be now that they've got a month to prepare for Michigan. But let's turn around to the other side of the ball and let's talk about TCU defense against Michigan's offense just a little bit. Because there is no Blake Corum, that doesn't necessarily mean that Michigan's run game falls off that much. They've got an incredible backup running back who did really well down the stretch there. But what can you tell me about that side of the ball?
Well, Michigan runs more than almost anyone in the Power Five and almost anyone in the nation. They are 115th in rush rate over expected. So what that means is they are passing. They are the 115th least passing of anyone given the down distance and yard line. 8.4 percentage points more than the average team is what they're rushing. So you take into account first and 10, second and third, or second and 3, third and 1, whatever, and get an expected rush rate. They're rushing 8.4 percentage points more than the average team. That's notable because a lot of times in college football, you have a split between run pass, and bad teams in college football will run over bad teams. Michigan has not been that. Michigan has been a good team who runs over good teams. They're rushing that much, but they're 19th in EPA per pass, 8th in EPA per rush. So really nice balance on offense of efficiency on both sides there. That looks into TCU, or that plays into TCU specifically in two ways. I mentioned before TCU's 48th in EPA per rush. They're 64th in EPA per rush, but there's a selection issue there because TCU has been in such competitive games and had to come back. They actually faced a kind of interesting slate of run-pass mixes in different situations of the game as teams maybe tried to sit on a lead and TCU came back, and then they faced more desperate teams trying to keep up there at the end as well. So that gap, that 20 per point rank difference between TCU's rush and pass is a little misleading because of game state there. But the run defense is definitely going to matter. Another thing that TCU doesn't do as well on the defensive side of the ball is prevent finishing drives, right? Michigan is 21st in points per quality possession, averaging 4.60. So when they get a touchdown when they get a first down inside your 40, they're getting averaging almost 5 points a drive. TCU is allowing 3.8 points per drive, which is again 47th in the nation. So that's something that TCU's defense is relatively worse about, letting teams finish those drives. That's something that's going to matter because Michigan is going to play a brutal, slow, plodding kind of football. And if TCU can hold them to a field goal, that might be the edge that they need on one of those drives to either make a comeback or put some distance between themselves and the Wolverines.
Yeah, I think this plays out on the field in the trenches, right? When you talk about a strong running game, a really strong defense that minimizes explosive plays, I think Michigan does have a significant advantage on the offensive and defensive lines in this matchup. But I do, maybe it's the biased frog in me, but I do think that TCU has a slight advantage when it comes to skill position players, especially on the offensive side of the football. But it'll be really interesting to see how Michigan is able to assert themselves up front, especially in the running game, and to close out some of those drives like you're talking about. It almost, Parker, feels like we're circling back to a conversation we had in 2011 right before the Rose Bowl, where everyone looked at this Wisconsin team that was a really strong rushing opponent. I think they had James White and a couple other NFL running backs on that team as well. And everyone talked about how Wisconsin was just going to run over the Frogs. And to an extent, late in the game, that did happen a little bit, but the Frogs were able to mitigate the damage done on the ground a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see if that's the case again here in 2022 in the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think, Jamie, this Michigan team is anywhere near the kind of just brutal physicality. But I also think that TCU is a much more physical team. Realistically, as TCU has grown and as they've continued to recruit, a reminder that coming into the season, TCU was clear and away the third most talented team in the Big 12 in terms of roster. So that has not dropped off, even as the on-field product has been a little dicey in the last couple of years. They've maintained that kind of speed and identity, but they really have beefed up a lot. You look at a guy like Dom Williams, traditionally much bigger, much beefier. Some of these linebackers that TCU have playing couldn't necessarily find a spot on the field in the 4-2-5, but in a 3-3-5, a little bit more flexibility to get some of those bigger, beefier bodies in there. So definitely will be some bulk. I think you look at the Illinois game is kind of a model, right? Mm-hmm. Can we frustrate them on offense? Can we prevent them from scoring drives? And can we hit a home run once or twice? That's really what it's going to come down to. TCU's offense has been a home run offense this season. And so that's really, if you're talking yourself into TCU winning this game, you're really talking yourself into TCU's defense being able to match up against Michigan like TCU's defense did against Texas, for example, or Illinois' defense did against Michigan, and then TCU connecting on a couple of those home run plays and surviving there.
Well, let's turn the page and take a look at the other semifinal here in the college football playoffs, because I think people are going to look at your stats and see, all right, a 31.2% win probability for TCU against Michigan. But contextually, what is there a significant difference in the gap between Ohio State and Georgia and TCU and Michigan at this point?
There is not really, because Georgia and Michigan have really separated themselves out as the best two teams in college football, just in terms of the metrics. And there's some movement around schedule adjustment. Michigan had a bad offseason or bad out of conference schedule, for instance. But Georgia's the clear number one. Ohio State is a top four team, though. In terms of opponent adjusted efficiency metrics, they're in that actual top four, whereas TCU is closer to that like 12th or 11th ranking. And so there is definitely a little bit of a jump there. But in terms of win probability and expectation, because Georgia is so much better than everyone, and Michigan so much better than everyone, the gap between Ohio State and TCU is actually much smaller than the gap between Georgia and Michigan and Ohio State and TCU. So I still have Ohio State with about a 34% win probability, losing by about 6 points there, even though they are, the fourth. Those rankings aren't exactly the distance changes, and TCU and Ohio State are actually a little closer in reality than they are to those top two teams of Georgia and Michigan.
Well, I think it's going to be an interesting matchup for TCU and for Ohio State to see if either one of those guys can actually upset what seems to be a kind of Goliath program at this point. It's really been interesting to watch Michigan develop over the last 3 years to be where they were at a point where Jim Harbaugh renegotiated his contract to take less money per year. There's still talks about him leaving for the NFL at some point. He hadn't beaten Ohio State yet, to the last two seasons, beating Ohio State not only last year, but this year, the way that they did at Ohio State in Columbus, and to run the table in the Big 12 and just on their whole schedule this year has been really impressive. So definitely a really tough matchup for the Horned Frogs, but they've found ways to win in incredibly creative situations before, and there's no doubt that they could do it again if they play a really good game.
Yeah, absolutely. They are potentially the underdogs, but I do not believe that they are just on their face outmatched going into this game, which is not something I would have believed if you had told me at the start of the season that TCU was going to be in a competitive playoff game with the Michigan Wolverines this winter.
Well, shout out to Sonny Dykes and the work he and his staff have done this year. Excited to see this one play out on the field, though. Parker, thanks for coming on the show today, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I like those two guys. They know what they're talking about when it comes to numbers, Parker and Jamie. Thanks for being a part of the Frogs Today team, guys. Coming up next, speaking of a teammate, David Bowden spent some time with some of our TCU football players at Heim Barbecue at that Flying T Club event last week. He had a chance to go one-on-one with several of them, kind of get their thoughts as to where this group is right now and what preparation looks like over these next couple of weeks prior to that bowl game. Coach Bowden joins us next when Frogs Today continues in a moment.
Texas-based Happy Water offers the best-tasting, sugar-free kids drink ever made. Happy Water comes in 4 delicious flavors that you can find at local retailers and on Amazon. Each pouch contains 0 grams of sugar, 0 calories, and 0% juice. Head to happydrinks.com for more information and to purchase Happy Water. That's HAPIdrinks.com. Live happy, be happy, drink happy.
For exclusive interviews and content on TCU recruits, subscribe now at frogstoday.com. Any sport, anytime. It's your source for all things TCU. Only on frogstoday.com.
Say hello to the water of tomorrow. Richard's Rainwater. Richard's Rainwater is 100% rain, refreshing, renewable, and the only ingredient we use in our water. Why rain? Because everyone deserves access to clean water, and rain is a 100% renewable resource available everywhere. Drink the rain. Save the planet. Shop now at richardsrainwater.com.
Frogs Today rolling on here on the Friday, kind of a football-intensive Friday, even though that bowl game a few days away. We had a chance to catch up with some of our Horned Frog players at Heim Barbecue as part of the Flying T Club event that took place over there, the Winter Dallas event, if you will. Coach David Bowden was there for us, and he had some one-on-one time with these guys. He starts our conversation, well, with one of the best. Here's Coach David Bowden and Quentin Johnston.
As we get closer here, we're almost at game time. Tell us a little bit about what you expect from this Michigan team.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously we expect them to, throw the kitchen sink at us, in terms, because obviously, we are in the playoffs, and just like us, they're fighting for a national championship too. So we're expecting everything. We're working day in and day out to, kind of meet that and hopefully surpass that at the end of the game.
As a receiver, playing in a game like this, that's more of a known as a physical game, where things are gonna have to battle it out. How do you approach a game like that at your position?
Kind of just, for starters, kind of blocking out all the distractions with whether it's social media or like different people coming up to you, day in and day out, telling you how great you are. Because obviously that's cool, but it's real easy to get caught up into that. So I kind of want to take myself away from all that and then get back to the basics of just playing football, thinking football, grinding football, from the time I wake up, from the time I go to sleep. So obviously nothing really changing for me from the season. From the regular season, but just keep my head to the ground and keep working.
You talk about that consistency throughout the year, and really probably a big reason why you guys are in the position you are now, just taking it that one day at a time. A lot of teams try to do that. What has been your secret to success in terms of being consistent and just approaching one day and winning that day? How have you guys done that as a leader yourself? How did you preach that, especially to the younger guys?
Yeah. It starts by trusting yourself, but having a great deal of trust in your teammates, as well as a great deal of trust in your coaches. Obviously, we have a completely new coaching staff from what we're previously used to. But at the end of the day, we're still playing football, so we really had no choice but to trust them. Obviously, they playing the plan they had and set for us. It's working. So obviously it's working before, so we're gonna trust it to keep working for us. In the near future.
Finally, Quentin, a guy who's been around the program, you've had some ups and downs as a team. To be in this position now, Fiesta Bowl, college football playoff, what does that mean to you?
It's nothing shorter than a blessing. Obviously, you said the past few years it's been ups and it's been downs. Obviously, we feel like, the previous 2 years we had the team, we had the arsenal to go out there and do some of the stuff we're doing this year, but it's just something was never clicking, obviously. So this is somewhat new territory to us because we are winning so much. But at the same time, like I said, we can't get too caught up into it. And we got to take it one day at a time and keep working.
Well, we certainly appreciate you. We appreciate the way you represent the Frogs and the TCU community, and we wish you the best of luck this week against that Michigan team. Go get a win.
Yes, sir, I appreciate it.
Here with Mark Perry, Jared Wiley, guys. It's getting close to game time. Mark, tell us a little bit. What do you expect from this offense? This Michigan offense and their style of play.
They're really want to run the ball football team. They're going, they're going to try to, really get us to get out of place and mess with our eyes a lot. I know they like a lot of play action, hard run game. So, it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a physical game. And, just like it's been all year long, it's going to be 60 minutes. So.
And for you, Jared, you're no stranger to all these, five-star guys and all that kind of stuff that they'll tout on that side of the ball, coming from where you came from at your last stop. But defensively, at the end of the day, what is this team's identity and who are they on defense?
They're real physical. They play a real physical brand of football. They're number 2 in the nation for a reason. We just got to match their physical capabilities, and we got to go out there and play our ball, and we'll be just fine.
Here with two guys that obviously transferred into TCU and coming from different places, but you both become leaders in your own right. And so, Mark, for you, how did that happen so quickly? A guy coming in and adding a lot of value to a team in your leadership role with the Frogs.
I don't think it was much different, from my last spot. There's a lot of younger guys in my room where I was at, so I was already kind of used to being in that role. So. Coming somewhere where, there weren't a lot of older guys in the safety room, it's kind of easy just to transition into that role and, just be that guy that they can look up to, do everything right and make sure they have an example.
And Jared, for you, it seems like, just talking to you throughout the year, that's something you've been really comfortable with and you were embraced right from the very beginning, and you seem like you're having a blast. I don't know, you tell me otherwise, but it seems like a lot of fun. How did that happen so fast for you?
A lot of people know that the tight end really wasn't used in this offense for the past couple of years. So just coming in and being a dominant guy, and just just really understanding the team goals and the culture, and just getting a feel for how the guys are on this team. Everywhere is different. So just getting that gel with me and all my other teammates. They made it really easy for me.
Speaking of tight ends, and that's a position where we hear about all this physicality of this Michigan team they're going to face this week. Talk about, as a tight end, how you approach that and say, look, I'm a physical guy myself, and we bring a lot to the table. And from your standpoint, how do you match that?
It's just the mindset. You have to go into every game, wanting to be physical and wanting to go hit somebody. I think that kind of falls into just the fact that a lot of the guys on this team, we've just been overlooked all year. So just proving to ourselves and proving to everybody else in the nation that we can play that style of football too, and that brand of football. That's a big deal for us.
And Mark, for you, and you see a guy like this, maul a defensive end and do that stuff on the other side of the ball, you're a guy who rolls out and you arrive to the line of scrimmage with a purpose, right? You're a safety, but, you tackle and hit like a linebacker. How inspiring is it to see it, kind of throughout your entire football team, that physicality?
Honestly, it's just the expectation right now. Being able to go against Jared every day at practice. It's nothing much different from practice. A lot of people look at our defense and try to say that we're all speed, but I think we're more than that. I think we're really dynamic, and we kind of bring that hybrid approach where it's like, yeah, we have a lot of speed, but we're also really physical too. And I think you can see that just in how we've worn opponents down, throughout games.
Yeah, and finally, you talk about, really when it's going to go to both of you, you talk about that speed and kind of what the Big 12 has been known for compared to the Big 10, right? The Big 12 over the years have been a fast, air-it-out type brand of football. The Big 10 obviously run the football, tight ends, fullbacks, that sort of thing. But really, the Big 12 has changed, hasn't it? When you look at the Big 12 and the physicality, this isn't anything new for you, is it?
Yeah, no, we see a physical brand of football, week in, week out. I don't think Kansas State gets enough credit for, their level of physicality, but, that's a very physical football team, them, Oklahoma State. We've played some big-time games against some big-time people this year, and, they've all been very physical. So, like I said earlier, just being able to showcase, our level of physicality and just our level and brand of football to the nation, it's a really big deal for us.
And same for you, Mark, with that offense. It's not like if this was 10 years ago in the Big 12, this might be the first time that you see 12 personnel, 13 personnel, that sort of thing. But you've faced that quite a few times this year, right?
Yeah. We've played a lot of teams that live in 11, 12, 13, have those heavier packages down on the goal line. So, it's really not much new. It's a good thing that we've been able to go throughout the year and see those things so that, when we do end up playing Michigan, that it's not a shock to us. So.
Well, we appreciate both of your time, and we're fired up for you. We're excited to root you on this week, and so go get a win out in Arizona. Standing here with quarterback Chandler Morris. Chandler, going back this year, you've been quite the team guy, right? You've always said the right thing, done the right thing, and we all know it's genuine. You're a coach's son and kind of carry yourself as a coach already. But, just the human element of it, the year that you've gone through, talk to me a little bit about just how tough that was, from the beginning of the year to now. Obviously, you're celebrating success of your team, of course, but just for you personally, how tough that is.
Obviously, I'm so excited for our team. Max as well. I've been right there, just patting him on the back, congratulating him. It's been a difficult year. I've definitely learned a lot of things, and kind of had to go through some stuff to learn these things. And I think I'm going to be better off, and I'm going to be hardened because of it. And this is going to help me later on in life and throughout my career.
And and you talk to teammates of yours, and they all say that you're a leader for this team, and obviously you've taken on a different type of leadership role now. What's that been like for you in terms of just kind of having a different role in terms of leadership and how to attack that and approach that? How do you approach that?
That was definitely an adjustment, I guess. Obviously being named the starter going into the season, and then kind of everyone's looking at you. That's definitely a role that you have to fill, but then some adversity happens, and then you're not on the field, and maybe not as many eyes are on you, but you can still be encouraging your teammates. You can, in the locker room, just patting them on the back whenever they get off the field too, telling them what you see on the field. So I've been trying to really find that balance, and I thought I did pretty well with that.
Yeah, your teammates and coach, I know, would echo the same thoughts. Getting into this week and this Michigan team, and it's a physical. Everyone talks about the physicality of this team and this defense. What have you seen from this Michigan team, though? I think that people would surprise some people that it's not as far off from some of these Big 12 teams that you guys have seen this year.
Yeah, I mean they're gonna be obviously pretty tough up front. They always are, but they're gonna secondary wise, back end, they're probably gonna be a lot of man. Which, I mean, we faced that plenty this year. That's nothing new. I mean, it's just comes down to our guys making plays, just putting the ball out there and letting them make plays.
As a quarterback, you going in and you seeing a bunch of man, you just kind of lick your chops knowing that you got some shots.
Yeah, and then you got to lick your chops and understand that you're about to take some shots too. So, I mean, you just got to get ready for that and know when to get the ball out quick and where to go with it.
Yeah, I will say, speaking of taking shots, I think, not only the offensive line, but, just being around and watching the film of these guys too and your teammates, that your running backs have done a really nice job in pass protection and not a lot of guys with that kind of talent also willing to step up at the line of scrimmage and smoke a linebacker as well.
Yeah, I mean, they've done a great job. I mean, all of them, not just from the one. They've done them all. I mean, they've done a great job with that, and that's kind of the selflessness of this team. I mean, sure, whenever you don't have the ball in your hand, what are you going to do? And we've been responding well.
Well, selflessness, it goes to you as well. And again, a great representation of TCU and your teammates. And we wish you all the best this week and moving forward as well. Chandler, thanks a lot. Here at Marcel Brooks. And Marcel, not many people know this, or maybe they do. In the spring, you called this, right? You were the one to talk about, being in the national championship hunt where no one else thought that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty cool to watch, to see how everything's kind of rolling out, being able to speak things in existence and watch things play out for itself. It's been really good watching the boys work and being a part of being able to be a part of this glory that we have going on right now.
And physically, I know, Marcel, it's been tough for you this year. You play your heart out, and you've had a couple injuries. First of all, tell us how you're feeling physically, and then also how tough this has been to be on this run, and be injured at the same time.
Yeah, well, at the same time, it's been hard, but sometimes it makes it. It's been not sometimes. It's been making it really easy for me. Really being around my teammates, being able to laugh, and being able to just now start walking after having surgery like 6 weeks ago. So I've been really enjoying the process. I have had a couple injuries this year during the bumps and bruises during the road, but I've been really enjoying myself in the process.
Marcel, you're still looked at by your teammates and your coaches as a leader. How has that been challenging, and what have you done to continue to lead through this injury?
Leading is something that you really naturally start to do. When you have to act like you're a leader or try to stand in the mirror and tell yourself that you're a leader, it's something that you're not, So something that I just wake up breathing doing is being a leader and being able to be there for my teammates and being able to get back to things as quick as possible, especially when you get injured, being able to bounce back and being able to be in a full circle with your teammates and just showing them that you're there.
Knowing you for a long time and looking at your situation, you were during the World event, you were at LSU, and there's some things going on there, but it seems like you really found a home here in a family type environment at TCU. Tell me a little bit about that.
I've been really enjoying the new journey of my life, especially this part of the journey of my college career. Been in college for 4 years now, and being able to just now find a home and being able to find people that understand me for who I am has been really good. Sonny Dykes and Coach Joe and a lot of guys on the staff have been really good to me and been able to help me just proceed in life, and being able to accomplish all my goals and being able to have them behind me as well. So it's been really good.
You talked about the fit, some of the family environment and all that stuff, but from a football standpoint, you've played a lot of positions, right? You've played on both sides of the ball, have played, in the back end, and played on the line of scrimmage. You're now a stacked linebacker. Personally, I think it's a perfect fit. Tell me a little bit about finally kind of finding a home in terms of the football side of things too.
Playing different types of positions, being in different types of meeting rooms, I've been learning a lot of football and just being able to put a lot of football on my plate, being able to find this new position, being able to play this star position and this new defense of Joe's has been really fun. It's been able to just move around the guys, been able to let other people play fast as well as me playing fast. So I've been really liking being able to play in this position. I could really play anything. I'll enjoy it because I'm playing football.
Well, you've played a bunch of positions. You've learned a lot of football. You're also coaching during football camp during that first that first injury, and so you'll be a guy that I look to hire someday as a football coach. Before we finish off here, you're heading into the Fiesta Bowl. Tell us a little bit about this experience heading into playing in the college playoff, and just what it means to you and your teammates.
Just the experience alone is very good. Being able to go on a long undefeated streak like that, and to be able to even just have the experience in the championship playoffs, and being able to be in the playoffs. This is like my second time being in college playoffs, so it's been really fun. I've been really enjoying my time. I've been really enjoying the team. Can't wait to really see how far this TCU team and this culture can go.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate your time, and it's always great to see you, as you know, and we look forward and good luck this week.
Good stuff there from Coach David Bowden, catching up with our Horned Frog players there at that event in Dallas for the Flying T Club at Heim Barbecue. All right, time to shift gears a little bit here. Let's talk about track and field. Now, crank it back up again in January. They've got some multi-sport athletes. Well, I say multi-sport. It's multi-event, if you will. These guys are true student athletes. Let's find out what they're going through in preparation for that January season right now.
Mainly just the Institute. I'm really big on my academics. I wanted to make sure that, I'm getting a good coach as well as a really good education, and TCU is definitely one of my top picks out the bat just because of how good their academics are already.
Coach Chu, she really sold me on this place, and I like it both athletically and academically. I feel like it has everything that I want, and I have family in Texas as well, so it's nice to be a drive to family if I choose. It's been difficult. I feel like I've always been pretty disciplined when it comes to my academics, and this first semester I've really had to just stick to my daily schedule, because if I take free time and do nothing with it, then I won't be productive. But it's really been just staying disciplined, sticking with my schedule, and just doing the best I could.
It definitely tested my mental strength. As hard as it was physically to recover, mentally it was just as hard. Just because, you're pushed so far back from what you're originally doing. I broke the school record, made it to Big 12 as a freshman, and then just all of that going down the drain after I tore my ACL. It's just a really long journey that you have to mentally prepare for. Just to get back to where you were, and you have to remind yourself that you can get back to where you were. It is a detrimental, injury, but you can always get back to where you were and even further.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's edition of Frogs Today. Don't worry, don't fret, even though it's the holidays. We're going to be with you again next week. Don't forget, you can go to frogstoday.com, click on our shop tab. Find yourself some Frogs Today swag you might want to pick up for Christmas. How about that? Sounds like a good gift idea, doesn't it? And as always, we want you to share, comment, like, but most importantly, subscribe to frogstoday.com and to our YouTube channel. From all of us here at Frogs Today, happy holidays, Merry Christmas to you. Look forward to seeing you back here again next week. Have yourself a great weekend.
Frogs Today is brought to you by the Flying T Club, supporting TCU student athletes, and by Richard's Rainwater. Say hello to the water of tomorrow. Frogs Today is a production of Roxo Media House.
Roxo Media House.